Students, I'm here to tell you about what to do for school for Thursday and to guide you through the checklist in your learning packet. So first of all, I'm still looking kind of bald today, but at least I have a football jersey on, so I look cool, right? You better say yes. All right, so the first thing on your packet is to smile. Make sure you do that and have a good day. Second thing is math, page 371. It's a clock worksheet. Let me guide you through that for a minute. First, let's review what we already know, what we talked about last time, Wednesday on clocks. When the longhand is up on the 12, it's going to say o'clock. This would first we say what the shorthand is pointing to, the hour. Then we say what the minute hand is pointing to, the minutes. 8 o'clock. Every minute that it goes past 8 o'clock, we say the next number. 8:01, 8:02, 8:03, 8:04, 8:05, 8:06, 8:07, 8:08, 8:09, 8:10. As it continues on, we could actually count by fives. 8:15, 8:20, 8:25, 8:30. This is what we practiced so far is the 30 and the o'clock. This is 8 o'clock. This is 8:30. Now, when the longhand is in between two numbers, you have to go back to the last o'clock, which is going to usually be the smaller number. So this is 8:30. If we go back to the last o'clock, it was 8 o'clock. So it's between the 8 and 9, but we know to say 8:30 because in your mind, you're thinking back to 8 o'clock. Okay, 8:30. So when the shorthand is in between two numbers, you go back to the last number that you had. Remember on our when we're on a digital clock, 8:30 would look like this, right? And today we're going to take what we know and expand on it and do time to the nearest 5 minutes, okay? So you still need to know o'clock and you still need to know 30, but now we're adding any number in between. So it could be 8 o'clock, 8:05, 8:10, 8:15, 8:20, 8:25, 8:30, 8:35, 40, 45, 50, 55, or again, o'clock. Those could be any of the answers today. Now, why did I count by fives? Let me remind you. When we're right here on o'clock, every minute that we go past is 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes. So on my clock, I have outside numbers 5, 10, 15, 20. That's just to tell you when the longhand gets to that spot, that's how many minutes it's been. So every time the longhand travels to the next one of these big numbers, that's 5 because it's gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. So 8, 9, this is 9 o'clock, 9:05. If it's right there, it's 9:05 because 9 o'clock, 9:01, 9:02, 9:03, 9:04, 9:05. If you get really good at it, you don't have to count by ones. You can count by fives. And if you also got good at yesterday's math and you know this is 9:30, then if the clock's right here, all you got to do is add 5 more, 9:35. Let's look at a real clock for a minute. Now, this is another top secret thing. You cannot tell Mr. Mata that I'm writing on the clock, okay? Don't tell him. Okay, so this is our clock off the wall. Can you see? I guess you can't really see it, but I took it off the wall. There's a hole there. So right now when I'm making this video, it's almost 9 o'clock. But we're going to look at all these numbers. When the long hand goes up to the 12, that is 9 o'clock. When it goes a minute after, every one of those little lines on my clock, you can look back there next to the 12, there's a little line because that's 1 minute. See, it's nice on my teaching clock. It has the blue numbers for us, so we don't even have to count. But in real life, those blue numbers aren't there. You have to know how to do that. So this was, when the longhand is there, it's going to be o'clock. Every minute that it goes past that, every time the longhand moves one of these tiny lines is 1 minute. 9 o'clock, 9:01, 9:02, 9:03, 9:04, 9:05. So when the longhand gets down here to the 1, we say 9:05, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 9:15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 9:20. Every time the longhand moves, every time the longhand gets to the next 5, we count by 5s because it takes a long time to count every little mark. You're so much better off counting by 5s. If the longhand was pointing to the 4, we would think in our minds, 5, 10, 15, 20, it's 20. 9:20 or whatever the hour is, something 20. If the longhand was pointing to the 7, we would say 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Something 35, 9:35, 8:35, whatever it is, it's something 35. Now, it's important to know how to tell time because sometimes you'll be in, I don't know, like a bus station or something like that, and there will be a clock like this on the wall, or you'll be in a class like ours, there's a clock like this on the wall. You don't have a watch on, you don't have a digital clock nearby, you need to learn how to read one of these clocks. Again, don't tell Mr. Mott I wrote on the clock. That's our little secret. There's something else I wanted to tell you about this, and I'm spacing what it is. Let's move on. Today on the worksheet, let's take a look. So in the worksheet, you've got to do the same thing of counting by 5s. Okay. If you look at the little hand, we always have to look at the little hand first because it's our hand. Look at the little hand here. It's pointing between the 3 and 4. So you have to think to yourself, if it's pointing between the 3 and the 4, am I going to write 3 or 4? Remember, go back to the smaller number because that was the last o'clock that we had, and the gears are making the hour hand slowly turn as the minute hand goes throughout the next hour. So it's always going to be the smaller number, unless it's between 12 and 1, then you go backwards to the 12. You always go backwards to the last number, which is always a smaller number, except for 12 and 1, and it's the 12. Okay, but you always go backwards to the last number. Almost always is the smallest number. So between the 3 and 4, we have to go backwards to the 3. We start this with a 3. Then we're going to put our 2 dots and write how many minutes. If you look at the minute hand, it's pointing down here to the 5. Do not write a 5. You have to figure out how many minutes did it take that long hand to get down to the 5. How many minutes did it take? If the shorthand was pointing to the 5, that would be the hours. And that's what we would write at the start. When we write this number at the end, it's the longhand. And the longhand, it doesn't matter what number it's pointing to, do not write that number. You have to figure out how many marks past the top the longhand has been. So this longhand has been, it's pointing to the 5. It's been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. It's been 25 marks past the top. Or you could just count by 5s. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. 25. Let's look at the next one. The next one, we're first looking at the shorthand. The shorthand is pointing right to the 9. We're going to put our 2 dots. Now, here's our longhand right here. The longhand is pointing to the 1. Don't write a 1. When we're dealing with the longhand, you cannot write what it's pointing to. You have to figure out how many marks past the top did it go. That's how many minutes past the top it went. which tells you how far into the 9 o'clock hour we actually are. When we get 60 minutes into the hour, it's a new o'clock. It will be 10 o'clock. If it was 9 o'clock, then it's going to be 60 minutes later, 10 o'clock. So when we're dealing with the minute hand, we're wondering how far into that hour are we? So we know it's the 9 o'clock hour because the little hand's pointing to the 9. How far into the 9 o'clock hour are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We are 5 minutes in. And if you get good at this, you just learn to count by 5. Start at o'clock and count by 5, 5. That's as far as we get. 5, 9. And it's kind of like when we were doing money, you got to do the next 2 spots. So if you write a 5, there's an imaginary 0 here, which turned it into 50. So if you're just going to write a 5, you actually have to write an O5 instead, okay? Same thing as when we were doing money. You should already kind of understand that. You can't just put a 5 because that turns it into an imaginary 0 here, which is 50. You have to do O5, 905. Let's look at the next one. The little hand is pointing between 11 and 12. Am I going to write 11 or 12? And remember, you always have to do the little hand first. That tells you the hour, and we write the hour first. So it's between the 11 and 12. I'm always going to write the smaller number, or I'm always going to go backwards to the last o'clock. If it's between the 11 and 12, I'm thinking going backwards. Would have been 11 o'clock last. So 11, 2 dots. And now we have to figure out this minute hand. There's my minute hand. It's clear out past the 8. That's a lot of marks to count how far past the 12 it's been, how far into the 11 o'clock hour we are. So the easiest way to do this, again, is going to be to count by 5s. Start at the o'clock and then count by 5s. We've been 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40. We're 40 minutes in because we counted by 5s and found it out real easy. You could count every tiny mark. Started at 12 o'clock, count every tiny mark all the way around till you get to where the long hand is right here, and there would be 40 little marks. We are 40 minutes into the 11 o'clock hour. The next problem, some kids see the long hand pointing to the 10 and they automatically want to write 10. No, we got to go to the shorthand first. So we're going to look at this, the shorthand. The shorthand's between the 12 and the 1. The shorthand is almost on the 1, but we're not to the 1 o'clock hour yet, so we cannot write 1. We got to think backwards to the last o'clock, which was 12. It's not quite to 1 o'clock because if it was at 1 o'clock, the long hand would be on the 12. So when we're getting close to the next o'clock, it's going to look, the little hand's going to be pointing almost to the next number. Sometimes it might even look like it is pointing to the next number. It doesn't matter. You got to think, what was the last o'clock? What o'clock are we almost to? We're almost to 1 o'clock, but that means we're not at 1 o'clock yet, so we got to go back to the last one. We would be in the 12 o'clock hour. And then we would put our minute hand. The minute hand's pointing to the 10. Let's count by 5s and see how far into this 12 o'clock hour we are. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. Like this. Okay? I think you guys have a pretty good hang of it, hopefully. I think I've explained it fairly well, but it's always harder when you try it on your own. You're to do page 371. Top problems are like what I just did. The bottom is a little trickier. They already have the, the hour hand for you. So on this first problem on the bottom, they already have 7 o'clock. You just have to draw in the 25. If it was 7 o'clock, they show you where the little hand is. You draw in the long hand or minute hand. Where would the minute hand be if it was 25? Well, think about it. We started out at o'clock. How far past the o'clock would we be? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. You need to draw your minute hand pointing down to the 5, because that's where it would be if we were 25 minutes past 7 o'clock. This time is 7:25. That means we're 25 minutes past 7 o'clock. The long can would be down here on the 25. All right, so now it's time to go do your worksheet, your math worksheet, and I'm going to pause this video, give you a second to get the video paused. Pause the video. Okay, now you should be back from doing your math worksheet. You should have paused it and went to do your math worksheet. Now you're back. The next thing on your checklist is spelling. Let me remind you real quick about spelling. Spelling this week is DGE words. J. G often says the J or soft G sound, which sounds like a J. It does that when it's next to an E. We use DGE in our spelling when it's a short vowel sound like adge, badge. Let's see if you can read a few more words that I put up here. How about this one? Think about it. Blend those two together. That's right, it's pledge. What if I change it into this? Pledging, that's right. Now, what if I kept the E and added a D? Notice that already happened. Edie. Pledged. Pledged. Now, remember when it's a long vowel sound, A-E-I-O-U, you just use a G and not a D. Age. Like rage means you're really mad. Huge, like huge. Or luge, which is like this big sledding race thing in the Olympics. Yeah. So let's see if you can figure out this tricky word. No, actually, never mind. I was going to have you do this word stooge, which means like a friend, but the Three Stooges, it's actually spelled like this, as I come to think about it. So never mind, scratch that. But the point is, when you have a long vowel sound, A-E-I-O-U, you just use G. When you have a short vowel sound, A-A-A-A, you use D-G-E, okay? Got to put the D in there when you're using the short vowel sound. One other thing that if we were at school, we would be talking about today for our reading, which is L-E at the end of a word. L-E just says ol. Don't get confused by the E. It's in words like hand, hand, and ul. It's in words like, what word is this? See if you can figure it out. That's right, daz-ul. L-E says ul. It comes at the end of a lot of words, and Mr. Smith's favorite word, which you guys can figure out because I like to do this. Right, juggle. I wrote on myself, whoops. Okay, L-E says ul. You'll need to know that when you're, just when you're reading. It's a good one to know. We would practice it a little bit more if we were actually at school. So take some time now, go trace those spelling words. That's your next assignment. And pause the video right now to go trace the spelling words. Okay, you should be back from tracing the spelling words. So the next thing on your checklist is your writing. Yesterday, remember, you wrote about your feelings about the coronavirus and the way it's affecting your life right now. After you wrote about your feelings, today your assignment is to have your parent help you fix what might need fixing. You don't necessarily have to fix every little thing, but Have them look through and tell you what they would like you to fix. Put capitals at the beginning of your sentences, periods at the end of your sentences, no capital letters randomly in the middle of words or middle of sentences. They belong in the first letter of a sentence, the first letter of a name. And we want to fix most of our spelling. If it's not a second grade word, I don't care, but your parents won't always know what second grade words are. But if it's a word that you can sound out or a second grade sight word, you should be spelling it right. If it's a more complicated word, I don't care if you spelled it right. But have your parents go through and help you check off and see if anything on your writing page needs fixed. Next thing on our list is recess. If your parents give you, oh, we better pause the video so you can go get your writing checked off. All right, you back from checking your writing off? Okay, the next thing on your list is recess. If your parents give you permission to, go have a little recess. No screens at recess time, just spend 10 to 15 minutes playing inside or going to play outside, whatever your parents allow you to do. Pause it for recess. Okay, you back from recess? The next thing is this on our checklist says reading skill 1, which is to practice reading quickly. It's important to read quickly. Remember, not so much that going fast is important as it is reading smoothly and putting that expression in there. So we've got a story for you to read called Helping Dogs. In the Helping Dogs story, see how fast you can read it in 1 minute. Then go back and read it again and try to beat your time, okay? And yeah, read the Helping Dogs story. The next part of your reading is going to be to read the sight word list. I'll read it for you right now to remind you. Above, again, along, myself, once, piece, something, table, they, wanted. Now you take that sight word list and go read it. Read it to your parents. And the next thing you do is 30 minutes, which could include the reading that you just did. It counts in your minutes. 30 minutes of reading time. If you don't have a lot of books and stuff to read, I have a packet of papers of stories so you'll have something to read. So you should have the stories were part of the packet that you received, and just so you have something to read. If you don't have books and stuff already at home, then you'll have something. Read for 30 minutes. Pause the video now to get your reading done. Remember, reading is 3 things. Your helping dogs, how fast can you read in 1 minute, your sight words, and then your free time reading. Okay, we're back. You should have just got your reading done. Next thing on our list is PE. Go get 10 minutes of exercise. Pause it now to go do your exercise. Okay, you should be back from exercising now. Next thing on our list is lift time, where we have some fun learning. Today I want you to do art. Art is an important skill to have, and it's a lot of fun. So draw me a nice picture, or if you have another art project you would like to create, or your parents will let you look up an art project on the internet and do it, then do that now. Create an art project. And the last few things on our list, community building. Go to Padlet and take a picture of your art project and post it. If you can't take a picture, just write about it. If you can't go there, then oh well, do the best you can. But I want to see your cool art projects, and I know your friends do too. So take a picture of your drawing or other art project if you're able to and post it on Padlet. And the last 2 things, have fun today and be kind. Again, I miss you guys. Keep on doing that little bit of schoolwork every day and have fun the rest of the day when you're not busy doing schoolwork, and hopefully we'll be able to see you soon.